Ryan Propp. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really well. I live in Marker Island, where it's a little warmer than it is where you are in the Pittsburgh area. And in the summer, I'm in Sea City at the shore in New Jersey for golf and other events.
Well, you certainly are living a sunny life compared to me right now, and I'm a little envious of that. And I want to thank you for joining me today. And right off the bat, I just want to ask, being that you're a Philadelphia Flyer and I root for the Pens, what was that like first battling them before Mario Lemieux came along, and what were those battles like before it transitioned to battles with Mario?
Yeah, so like in the early '80s, I had Bob Clark and Bill Barber and a bunch of those guys were leaders, and Kenny Linsman and Paul Holmgren we had good teams. I remember my first year in '79, '80, we had a 35 undefeated streak, so that was a good way to get started. Then they went to the finals against the Islanders the first time, and so it was really good for me then. And Pittsburgh was kind of rebuilding, and then of course getting Mario, to play and later in the '84, '85, he made a big difference. He's such a squealed player, but we gave him trouble because the Sutter brothers checked him all the time. But you can't hold him down too much.
No, of course not. And well, eventually as well, you get to play with Mario and Gretzky and that great, magnificent group from the '87 Canada Cup. I bet you have some fond memories of playing with those guys there.
Yeah, that was really good. It was that time. It was '87 Canada Cup, and that series was 3 game series. So like most of the time, it's just one game and it's finished. But it's 3 game series, and so every score was 6-5. We lost the first one 6-5. Then we won in double overtime. I was on the ice for that for Gretzky and Lemieux, and then we won with a minute left, and where Mario topped it all off. But it was nice to be on the winning side with some champagne at that time, because at that time I was in 3 Stanley Cup Finals, and then of course I was in 2 more Stanley Cup Finals, but didn't get to taste the winning side.
Well, before we talk about those Cup Finals, of the Penguins players that you remember playing against, who were some of the ones that were really tough that you knew game in, game out, it was going to be a battle?
Well, Yager was a young player and a skilled player, and of course they had Brian Trottier like later on in his career, and the goalies were really good, and I just remember playing against them all the time, and just Kevin Stevens and a couple of those, because I did the radio for 9 years after my career, like for the Philadelphia Flyers, every home and away game and playoff game, and so I did a lot of charity hockey event, like in Howard in Winnipeg and Ontario. He ran some charity hockey events and some golf. And so I got to know a lot of people there. And last March, I was inducted into the Brandon Wheat Kings Hall of Fame. And they had a celebrity hockey event at that time, last March. And so that was really special. Trottier and Bill Smith and Kevin Smothers and Sutters and you name it. It was just a fun time. And so I know a lot of these alumni from doing the radio every home and away game. And so like it's special because the hockey room is such a good group of guys.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, I've been lucky enough to be around some players in my time, just being around the Pittsburgh Penguins so much, being a fan, and you get to meet some of them. And I can't say enough about hockey players. They're the most polite, nicest people to the fans that I've ever met. And it's just refreshing to see that, especially still today, given how much access we have to some sports, that we still see our NHL pros are top notch.
Yeah, and it's like I think most of the time, like especially the '70s and '80s, like there wasn't too many Russians because they got drafted in 1990, and so they had to defect, and so it changed a lot in the '90s and the 2000s, and that most of the people were from Canada and the east of the U.S. And but it was more for families, especially growing up in Canada. You were proud of where you went to, and you had to be a good person and know how to act, and that's why a lot of people like the hockey players.
I would agree. Now, sir, you are still in high ranks for the Philadelphia Flyers for all-time points, goals, assists, power play goals, shorthanded goals. It's now, and I look and I see some of your career because me as a fan who really came of age in the late '80s, I know you more for your days as a North Star. Honestly, I only caught the end of your Flyers days as a young man, as a young lad, but in the beginning, you go to the Stanley Cup that first year, like you said, with Bobby Clark still on the team. What kind of experience is that first year in the league?
Yeah, that was really good because at that time, like the year before, there was a World Hockey Association and the NHL, and then of course, then they just had one league, the NHL, and so you didn't have any bargaining to do that because the World Hockey Association, it could have made a lot more money if they were still there, but you took what you got. Like I was just a young guy and I didn't know any better, and just took what I did, but thankfully for me, I was picked number 14 over time, and so I got a chance to play against the Philadelphia Flyers. It actually helped me because the guys that were younger or earlier, like they didn't make the playoffs that much, and thankfully for me, I was a good player, and the Flyers had good teams, and so I made the playoffs my first 13 years in the NHL, and which is really special. And you learn how to learn to lead, and of course, Bob Clark was best leader around. And so I was really quiet at the start. I didn't say much. And it took me a couple of years after that. And so like when Bob Clark left in '85 as a GM, and then Dave Pullen helped me as a Luger two leader, but also Mark Howe and Brad McCrimmon really helped me because, I learned to talk a little bit better. And so like, it just, as you get older, you kind of learn the things. But for my first year, the 35 undefeated and going to the finals was really kind of nice, and then it was just a good way to get started. And then I never forgot that that, hey, listen, we lost in overtime in Game 6 and in the Islanders, and if not, maybe I could have won a Stanley Cup and go back to Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, geez, 5 times you've been to the Stanley Cup, 3 with the Philadelphia Flyers, once with Boston, once with the Minnesota North Stars. That's amazing to me. Even one, it's amazing to me. Out of those 5 runs, do you have one that seems to be most memorable compared to the
Well, of
others?
course, when I was young, I didn't realize how lucky I was my first year in the league. But I think in 1990, when I got traded to Boston, they were number one in the league that year, and so I was thinking that we had a good chance to win that. And of course, Edmonton, we lost the first game in triple overtime. The lights went down, and Klima scored like after he wasn't on the ice for almost a game, and then he won that game. So it really hurt us at that time. And Edmonton was so powerful, like and Ranport played so unbelievable. It was tough to get through that. But of course, every Stanley Cup final was special. And of course, in '87 with Ron Hextall being a rookie, and he won the Conn Smythe, and we lost in Game 7. But I remember that series because I was one of the better players in the league that year, and so I just proud to force a Game 7 against the powerful Edmontons.
Yeah. It's incredible some of the names I hear you name off a young Ron Hextall, who you said before we came on here, GM for both the Flyers and the Penguins at one point. It's incredible to hear you talk about playing with some of these guys. Who are some of your favorite line mates, and why?
Yeah, so I loved Brad McCrimmon and Mark Howe because their plus minus was like out of the mind, out of this 4-year-old. Like it's like they were plus 85 and 87 a couple of years, and so like that every time went on the ice with them, you got a chance to score a goal, and of course. Tim Poole, Tim Kerr, and Dave Poulin were special. And when I started with Bill Clark and Reggie Leach, I was a left winger, and then they switched after 20 games, and they went back to Bill Barber and Clark and Leach, and then I played with Kenny Linsman and Paul Holmgren, they were tough guys, and then in the '80s and later '80s, like with Ron Tuckett, and Zezel and players like that, Kelly. It just really made a difference. And then for Minnesota, I was with Mike Modano. He was a couple of years into the league, and then Dave Gagne. And then, of course, that was really good to play with him. And Boston, I was only there for a month and in the playoffs. But I loved Bork and Neely because they were such good guys. And, I just got to bond with them a little bit. But they didn't offer much after that season. So went to Minnesota.
Yeah, and in Minnesota, of course, well, you go right back to the finals. You face my Pittsburgh Penguins in the finals. And what was it like to see Mario this time on this side of the ice in the finals with you with the North Stars now?
Well, against Minnesota, like we beat the number one team of the league, Chicago, in the first round, and in the second round was we beat St. Louis, which was number two in the league, and then we played against the Edmonton Oilers and we beat them, and so we were thinking pretty good. But Mario, he's a little older and wiser, and he kind of took over the last couple games, especially a shorthanded goal that he scored, which was out of this world. And then we lost 8-0 the game six, and so that was not too good to remember. But he had a good team, and Yager and Trottier and you name it, Keith and Stevens and Tockett, and so and Recker. So it was really tough because they were good, but he can do it himself.
With all these different atmospheres that you're playing in the playoffs and regular season, were there any arenas that you really love to go to?
Well, I always liked Montreal because I grew up in Canada, and their ice was always really good. And the special for me growing up in Saskatchewan, a little town of 300 people in a small farming area, and just to remember that, hey, listen, I played NHL in Montreal, and it was history to me because every time I saw the Stanley Cup Barners, they had 24, 25, and so it was special for me. But I love playing in Montreal, and of course I love playing against a New York Island or the Rangers. The old rink, like in Madison Square Garden, is special, and I loved Chicago because they sang the anthem, and it was just I didn't notice and I didn't know what was going on, and it was so loud, and so I enjoyed those games with Montreal, New York, and of course with the other one.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was probably extra sweet to beat Chicago in the playoffs at that time too in the '90s, just when Roenick, Chelios, all those guys are right there, especially given the history with Mr. Chelios there. I have to ask you also, what is a place you just did not like to play at? That it was just every time you went there, you're like, don't like this locker room, don't like this fan base.
Yeah, the worst one that I didn't really like was Buffalo. Buffalo was always kind of cold and rainy and cold, and the rink was a little smaller at that time, and so I hated playing there because like when you're in California it's a little different because you have nice weather, but I hated Buffalo.
Now you're a part of the Flyers alumni, and you're an ambassador for the game still. Now, with how the NHL is modernized now, with the changes, what are some of the changes that you would like to see kind of maybe revert back to the old ways? What are some rule changes you don't like?
Yeah, so it would just be a little different because if there's a tie and they go to 3-on-3, I would have loved to play 3-on-3 for look how many extra points I would get for that and goal, and then a shootout, but at least they still have the playoffs where you can play to the end where it makes sense, because I hope they never get rid of that, because the better teams can do the difference. But yeah, and it's so much faster now. Like the guys can't really get hurt as much, and so they can play for 20, 25 years and get more points. And so I notice more and more people getting 1,000 games and points after that. But there's 32 teams, and it's so different. Everything's kind of even, but I like the old one where like you could have little fights and just a little more rougher.
Is there any rule changes that you do like that were are for the better for the game?
Well, I like when they taking out the or red line or like was you can get little some breakaways or something like that, but it just makes it a little faster. But these all guys, the coaches are trained to know how to play better defense. Depends on where you are, what time of the day is. Like a lot of times the teams will play for a tie just to get a point, and or three or two, and so just you notice that hey, listen, at the end it's different, but the goalies are so bigger and faster now. It's tough to score, but the smarter players learn how to play and on the power play and get more points and just where to be in the right position and you be a smarter player. So like that's the smarter players tend to kind of know where they have to be and they can shoot the puck better. But now, like like with the sticks that they have, it's unbelievable. Like how many how many goals that they can get just by shooting the puck as hard as they do. I know because I use the tightened white wood one, and it was heavy, but it's straight. So I can't believe I scored as many goals as I did with one wood stick.
Oh yeah, I have an old wooden stick I still keep right in the garage just for fun, and I have one of the newer sticks, and my goodness, it's night and day. It feels like you're carrying a weight with one in
Yeah,
comparison
I know
now to the
because
newer ones.
a couple of the Flyers alumni they gave me a couple of some sticks, and so like I used Hartner and Voracek's sticks, like when I used to play in for fun, and it makes a big difference. Like they're lighter and you can shoot much better, like and you hit the top shelf a lot easier.
That's true. Who in the Flyers organization right now with this current team are you really excited for their future?
Well, the Russian Mamuchak he's his second year, and so like he's getting better every year, and of course having Tocchet as a coach now, like he's got them like right there where there's only like 20 games left, and so you
Right.
never know what can get in. You get in the playoffs, you never know what happens, and but he's still fighting, and they got a young guy, young team, and so they're playing really well. And of course the goalie's been really good too, but having the right coach and the it makes a big difference because you need the younger players that are faster and get up into play and are tough to play against. Pittsburgh's done a really good job this year. A lot of people were surprised with that, but you never know, and it's the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm very pleasantly surprised with what my favorite team is doing, and I'm anxious to see how it goes into the playoffs. Especially the Flyers right now, they're not that far back from the Blue Jackets. They're only about yeah, well, they are a little bit. They're about 7 points behind right now. Uh, but they can make that game ground up. But we'll see. I'm excited for the Flyers because I do think they have a young core, and it makes our division better when both teams are good. I like
Yeah,
watching both teams when they're good.
yeah,
Um,
that's it. It makes a difference.
it really does. Now, I just want to ask one final thing in regards to the hockey career, and it's just when you were playing hockey, when did you finally start feeling those inklings of like, I should retire right about now? When did you start feeling like I'm not really wanting to play today, or what was it that made you feel that you needed to step down finally?
Yeah, so my last year in Hartford in '74, in '94, like I got my 1,000 points and 1,000 games, which is I was really looking forward to. And when I did that, that was nice. And then I decided to play a year in France. So I already set up the year for France. That was the year that they had like the lockout, and so like I was looking like the smartest player in the world until they settled until the next January. But yeah, at that time, like I was just good with where I was. Like I played a year in France, and I thought, well, if they want to ask me back, and I had a good year there, then maybe that could be something that I could think again. But after that, I was just retired with France, and then I started my own family because my children are a little 20, 29, and 26 now. And so I got a chance to spend their life with them, teaching them hockey. They're both good. My daughter's a good crew, and so is my son Jackson. They were good crew people, and so they good schools, and they worked hard. And I taught them the right way, just to play defense and have fun with the game. And so that's where I was. And so like because I played a couple of charity hockey events when I was with Wolf Commercial Real Estate a couple of years ago. We did a charity hockey game every night, every time. And then the last couple of years, I've been working for the Headstrong Cancer, doing a couple of those charity hockey events. And there's just was one last month ago in Florida where they had 10 alumni. It was a homeless people in Melbourne, Florida. So like I still get a chance to play because after my massive stroke 10 years ago, like I can't, my right fingers on the right side don't work, but I can still skate okay, which is nice. And I can't shoot the puck that well, but I can still manage a way to, score and do a guffaw whenever time I scored.
I'm so glad you did that. Thank you. Speaking of your book, since you brought up your stroke in 2015, you had a book come out in 2024 talking about your recovery process and all of that called Angel on My Wing, a story of faith, determination, and courage. Could you please tell us more about the book?
Yeah, the distributor is in Chicago, and then so like it took 2 years to write because it was a year for recordings and another 11 months to edit everything. So at the start last November, I just got signed up and we got it all started, and so it's going pretty good. I still have books with me all the time. I just charge like $30 a book, and if they want to go to Amazon or in Canada, it's Indigo. And if they want to go to my brianpropp.com website, there's a lot more information on that, how to order and to get a book. But I'm in Florida and in New Jersey most of the time. I do events, especially the golf events, and then I bring a book with them. So I'm slowly, just building up a bunch of people that know about my stroke and how I recovered, because 2015, like I had a massive stroke. A clot went into my heart, into my brain, three different places, and I should have died. But thankfully, my family was calling 911 pretty fast because I couldn't talk or walk at all for like a few months. So it took me a long time. It took me like a year and a half. So after a year and a half, I was able to work with Bancroft Rehab, and so they did a video about my stroke and how I recovered, and I got back on the ice. And so it's really special for me because I still skated twice a week with the guys in New Jersey. And just every time on the ice with people, I just realize how lucky I am, and enjoy that and live life happy, and don't care about too much, and just have fun in life. But yeah, it's more about my faith was from my dad, who was a Lutheran minister, and I had two brothers and sisters in a little town of 300. And so he taught me how to play hockey. And so it talks a little bit about hockey, playing for the Melville Millionaires. I tell people I was a millionaire once. And then I ran at Wickets. I just was 3 powerful years of there. Top scorer in the Canadian history of left wingers, and then going to the Philadelphia Flyers for 11 years and played for 15 years. And so it tells a little bit about that. And then, but most of it is about my stroke and how I recovered from my stroke, because a lot of people need to understand why I was so successful in doing that. Because most people, if they're not up to it, like they give up and they don't use rehab. And then it takes them a long time just to heal. And my book really talks a lot about the different things that I've done to make myself better, and they can think about that too.
That's wonderful to hear. And we're always about here at Not Move for our Not Move podcast members. We always like to hear good stories about people striving and, pushing forward. And especially they inspire people like me. They inspire all of our friends. Now, you do have a charity event coming up, don't you?
Yeah, I have my charity golf is it's at Riverwinds in New Jersey. Like Ron Jaworski owns one of the clubs right there, and it's right next to the airport in New Jersey. And so like it's at Riverwinds Golf Club in West Deptford, and but it benefits the Stroke Center, University of Pennsylvania. So like I'm almost full of five foursomes, and so if they want, they can get that information on through my Brian Propp website, and if they want to, there's a, and plus we just I have a QR code that we just did that can people can donate to the charity if they want, and so like if they want to just go to like for the for the Stroke Center, University of Pennsylvania, like, and even if they want to put in 10, 20, 50, 100, more, like everything adds up for the research that they've been doing for the stroke centers.
Yeah, and everybody, his website operating just fine, brianpropp.com. Please go visit it. There's a lot of information there. The book, you can find out the charity links. It's all there. Uh, before I'm able to cut you loose, the playoff picture. Who are you excited? Who do you think is going to make a run in the West, and who do you think is going to make a run in the East?
Well, Colorado, California is, the Avalanche is too good. Like they were so hot all year, but they keeled down a little bit, but they're still so good. So like it's really tough to get through that division. And on the East, it's pretty. You never know because so there's a couple of surprises. So like yeah, but I don't know how to pick on the East yet because Florida is like, it looks like they're not even going to get in the playoffs this year, which is kind of crazy. And then Tampa is much better, so the Tampa is always tough. And so like just they have a hot goalie and good players, and you never know what's going to happen from there. But you get into the playoffs now. There's a lot of teams, and everyone has a chance, and so it's all been pretty interesting.
Yeah, I know. Especially, it was unfortunate to hear yesterday that Leon Draisaitl is not going to be able to play the rest of the season or the playoffs. And now, man, Connor McDavid has a big uphill battle, a lot of expectations, of course, trying to get there 3 years in a row for him. Uh, I'm wondering who's going to come out of that Pacific Division now. Do you think it's going to be the Ducks, the Oilers, the Knights?
I always like Las Vegas because like I know Kelly McCrimmon because he played with us in Brandon, and his brother Brad McCrimmon that died in the plane crash. But I always like in how he runs everything, and they're pretty steady, but they have a good team and they're strong, and they won a couple of years ago. So you never their experience probably does make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really, once again, thank you, Mr. Propp, for joining us. Everyone, please make sure to go check out his website, brianpropp.com. It's up and running. It looks beautiful, by the way. Whoever designed the site, they did a great job. It looks very nice. And one more time, please, if you could, tell us about the charity real quick, where they can make donations again, and where they can find your book.
Yeah, so like if you go to Amazon and Indigo, like Angel on My Wing is the name of the book. So if they want to go to that, they can do that. And but before we go, like I have my own cigar brand from the Dominican Republic. It's called, and so my new website that I just created is guffaw-cigars.com. So like I just redid the website for that. I have boxes of 5, 10, 24, and bundles of 25. Well, they're from the Dominican Republic, but they're really quality cigars. So if anybody wants to order on from there, like the link is ready if they want to order through that and PayPal. And my charity hockey or golf is at Riverwinds Golf Course in New Jersey, and it benefits the Stroke Center of University of Pennsylvania. And so like just and of course our Flyers alumni, we do a lot together. Like in June 13, 14, and 15, we've got a whole weekend of pickleball, run, a rock, and a bike. And then we have the golf tournament is at DuPont Country Club in Delaware, the 15th. So it's we have like 55 alumni that are going to be there, part of that. So it's a fun time. And so like yeah, everybody should just try to take advantage of that.
Yes, they should. And if we ever get a chance to speak again before the playoffs, I'd love to get a deep dive into playoffs. If you ever have a free schedule, I know you're a busy man, but I want to say thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. It's been my pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a fun time. You did a good job.
Oh, thank you, sir. And I hope to speak with you again.
Thanks.
Teaming up with BetUS, the sports book that lets you wager anywhere in the country.
And we're giving you a massive edge. Use promo code NOTMOVE when you sign up and get a 100% match on your first 3 deposits.
Plus, there's a 200% crypto bonus up to $2,750. Football, hoops, baseball, soccer, it's all in play.
Think you know sports? Ride with the underdog. Get in on Pick'em or Best Ball. Make your moves and watch the games come alive. Play $5, get 100 instantly when you sign up with promo code NOTMOVED. Turn every drive, dunk, and homer into a payday. Download the Underdog Fantasy app and start winning.
Need some new Not Move drip? The In the Wickets hoodie just dropped. Super soft fleece, heavyweight feel, and the official NMP patch on the sleeve. Tap add to cart, check out, and let us handle the rest. In a couple days, it shows up at your door, ready to rock. Rep the podcast from the couch to the tail.
Oh, the Orphan Elimination Chamber tee just dropped. Fresh out the box. Look at this.
That print is nasty. Chain link O, silver hit. It's tough.
It's soft too, y'all. Fits right. Little drip for the Elimination Chamber weekend.
We rocking these all season.
If you're part of the Not Move fam, you already know.
Jump on it before it's
Grab
gone.
yours now at Not Move Shop.
Today's episode of Not Moved is brought to you by Open Goal, the world's #1 backyard goal. If you love soccer but hate chasing balls into the neighbor's yard, this thing is a game changer. Its rebound net sends missed shots right back to you, and the side nets keep your landscaping and your windows safe. It's perfect for kids, for training, or just having fun.
Today's episode of the Not Move podcast is brought to you by Walmart.com. With our storefront in the Walmart app, you can get everything you need. Pick up or have it delivered.
We ordered dinner while recording and it showed up before we wrapped.
Better good sweet corn and burrata ravioli.
Dairy protein drinks, even St. Patrick's Day treats.
Walmart.com.
Episode of the Not Move podcast is brought to you by the MLB Shop. They have every team's gear, from classic caps to World Baseball Classic hoodies, all official and all ready for game day. Tap the link in our bio to head straight to the shop and snag your favorite merch.
Basketball nights just got even bigger. With NMP and MyBookie, you can bet on every matchup, no matter where you live. Tap in, pick your spread, and watch the action unfold. Start wagering in every state with NMP and their sponsor, MyBookie.ag. Use promo code NOTMOVE for up to $125.
The Not Move podcast is fueled by Dubby Energy. Smooth, jitter-free focus, and flavors that slap. Mango, berry, watermelon. Whatever gets you locked in, they've got it. Hit up Dubby.gg, use promo code NOTMOVED, and snag 10% off your order. Stay not moved, stay energized.
Today's episode is brought to you by the NFL Pro Shop. If you want to rep your squad with fresh gear, this is where you get it.
Jerseys, hats, hoodies.
Even the sideline stuff. It's all there and it's all official. Hit the Not Move link in our bio. Gear up for
right here on TikTok. The Not Move podcast presents you Southgate's Parlays. Break the bookies, not your bank. For just $9.99 a day or $49.99 a week, you get the daily fire picks delivered straight to your phone and a direct line to Southgate himself in our private Discord. Tap the link, grab your membership at NotMoveShop.
Not Move, fam. Southgate edition just landed and it's fire. Check the tee, watch out for the skis and the wickets. Hockey stick, cricket wickets, all vibes.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Move Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.